Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Devin, the original Grognard, and we're back in the Grognard's Corner. And it's been a while since I got a video out. I think it's been about a month since I shot my last video for the Advanced Tobruk system. The beginning of springtime is always a little bit rough for me. My folks own their home, and I spend a lot of time up there at the beginning of springtime helping my old man out with, yard work, house maintenance, fixing up the garden, getting the initial mowing done, washing the house, spraying off the roof, pressure washing the patios. Just if you own a house, there's a lot of stuff that goes along with it. And whereas my father may be in better shape than I am, he's also in his 70s, and I'm not going to have him doing that stuff by himself. So I spend a lot of time up at my folks', usually end up, quite burnt out and worn out and tired by the time I get home, because my fat old ass is not used to doing physical labor. So that's kind of one of the biggest reasons why I've been kind of procrastinating and getting the next video up. But here we are, and for those of you who have not been following my Facebook page at the original Grognard, we are taking a look at Wolfpack, Submarine Warfare in the North Atlantic, 1942 to 1944, released by SPI in their Strategy and Tactics magazine, 1974, designed by the ever-popular and ever-loved Jim Dunnigan. This actually was SPI's third. This is a solitaire game, and is actually SPI's third solitaire game. They had two others that they did before this: Operation Olympic and the Fall of Rome. And I will state right off the bat that I had a hell of a time getting this printed out. I don't own a copy of this, or the magazine, or the flat box game, but several years ago, some kind soul was nice enough to try to scan every single S&T in existence, and I've managed to get my hands on several of the scans. Unfortunately, they're done at about 150 dpi, so the scans aren't the greatest, and trying to get the maps printed out was a gigantic pain in the ass. I managed to get the rules printed out with no problem, the counter sheet, and whoever had scanned it originally had cut it down into 8 sections so he could get, what was it, 8.5 by 11 sheets out, so you could print it out on 11.5 and just go from there. Unfortunately, he didn't get it exactly perfect, so none of them were sized the right way, and so it was a jumbled, puzzled mess that just wouldn't work. Tried to get the main file printed out, but again, since it was scanned so long ago, there was no computers that could read the giant, the full map, kind of like what we're seeing here. So I went to my fallback. I went to Board Game Geek and started checking out Board Game Geek, because I know if there's going to be alternative maps and alternative counters that someone has done for a game, it's going to be on BGG. And there was some kind soul who had done a graphic remix or graphic redo of the map and the counters. I didn't go with the counters. I mean, like I said, I already had the original counters printed out. So I went with this new graphically enhanced version. I will admit, I'm a little bit kind of off put by it. The water graphics seem a little bit overpowering. But I guess it's kind of growing on me. The charts and tables, I mean, it's got, you've got your turn sequence here, and you've got all the charts and tables for storms and spotting, and it's got everything that it needs. A couple little extra graphical enhancements on it. Couple things that were a little bit, I found a little bit, not sure why the designer who did this didn't catch it, but let's see if we can go ahead and zoom in a bit. Right here you've got, this may not be able to zoom in close enough, but basically you've got all these air points here And the scenario, there were four basic scenarios in this game, and so deciding on which scenario you're going to play will determine, you know, how many subs you get, how many convoys there are, what type the escorts are, what the different air power is, and what their different strengths and their ranges are. Unfortunately, for some reason, he copied the air stats. It's the same all the way across for each month for each scenario, and doesn't even really make a lot of sense because, you know, at one point. It says I think there's supposed to be 3 20 strength aircraft, and there's only 2 in the game. It just not that big a deal. I just went to the original map and got the what the actual numbers were supposed to be. But yeah, whoever originally designed it really messed up on the air power and where they start off at. Also, another little thing that I caught. Let's see if we can get down here without being too messed up. You got the victory point tracks. It's supposed to be ones here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then when you hit 10, then you move it up to the tens column here. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. But if you'll notice, he just copy pasted the same track. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Not supposed to be that way. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hit the 10. Slide that up and then go back. It's not that big a deal. Just something I did want to point out in case someone notices that while we're playing. I'm going to be doing a little bit different of approach to this game, or how I play it. I've never played this game before, and a lot of people have expressed a lot of interest exactly in how the mechanics run. So instead of me just going through and doing your general all-purpose playthrough like I usually do, with, you know, sometimes touching on the rules, sometimes not, me just, you know, being my usual non-clever self and just playing the game as I play it, this is going to be more of a we're going to go through step by step and actually go through line by line on the turn sequence. And here's the turn sequence right here, and how everything works. So we can kind of get, so this is going to be kind of more of a meatier from a rules setting of a playthrough than a lot of my other playthroughs are. One thing I will say about the original game, as I said, the game has 4 scenarios in it. The game, the subtitle of it is, you know, Pacific Submarine Warfare in the Atlantic 42 to 44, but the 4 scenarios are February, March, April, May of 1942, which really doesn't make any sense to me, because in that 4-month period of the scenarios, we have the British escorts going from your basic destroyer escorts all the way up to cruiser or carrier battle groups in a quote-unquote 4-month period. So I think when they originally did this and originally wrote it up, they kind of messed up a little bit, and, you know, not too unsurprising. I mean, it's SPI was 1974 was working out of a garage, and I think it was like 3 or 4 people tops that were working on it. I see what I've done to set it in my own mind is the first scenario is late 42, second scenario is early 43, third scenario is late 43, fourth scenario is early 44. So that's basically how I've put things in my mind and figured it out. And we are actually going to be playing the first scenario, which is going to be late 42 in my mind. And just to go over little things, I will say, let's go ahead and take a look at one of the counters. This is your typical German submarine. Yeah, all right. It looks like a submarine. I mean, it's not a great representation of a submarine, but, you know, it works. And I'm actually surprised that they had graphics on the counters to begin with. Let's take a look at one of the convoys. Yeah, it looks like a cargo ship. About this time, SPI was kind of infamous for very low quality artwork on their counters. Anybody who remembers the big one, Pacific War, they didn't even have graphics on any of those counters. No aircraft symbols, no ship symbols. They just, had text on their CV battle group or BB battle group or what have you. So, it's kind of nice that about this time period, here's an aircraft, Allied aircraft, and it's very minimalistic design. Again, I don't fault SPI for it. You got to remember, this is the era before computers, and so any graphics that they had to do, they pretty much did it by hand, and they didn't have the money for graphics artists, so they did what they did with what they had. But there are people that are going to probably get a little bit miffed at the artwork. To me, it's fine. I've never been a big stickler for graphic art, anyways. So, but basically, for 1942, the Germans get 42 submarines, and obviously, what they're trying to do is stop. As the German player, as the solitaire system goes, you play the Germans, and the Allied convoys run kind of a programmed instruction. I'll get into that later. But you have two sets of convoys. You got the eastbound convoys coming from Halifax, heading towards England, and then you've got the westbound convoys that are heading from England towards Halifax in the States. And of course, the Germans are trying to intercept them. The submarines, the individual submarines, as we can see, just, U-209, that represents one submarine. And then you can form Wolfpacks. And basically, you see that little arrow at the top of the counter, plus the name Mosul. It's kind of I think the Wolfpacks were named after whoever the highest ranking captain was. But that's basically 6 submarines working in a Wolfpack. And you can get, for example, there's this guy. It's got 12 submarines in it, so on and so forth. I think the biggest Wolfpack there is 24 submarines in a group. So as the German player, you get 42 submarines. You can break them up however you want. So basically, what I did is I went with one 12-pack. 112 pack Wolfpack, and then I went with the 2 6-pack Wolfpacks, and then 6 loose groups of individual Wolfpacks. Now, see, if I was a clever man, I would sit down and look at the potential starting convoy hexes, because there are 5 convoys that start on the game, and so you've got this random chart here that you roll for each one of them to see what the exact starting hex for each convoy is, each of the 5 convoys. If I was a smart man, I'd look at that, see where they could potentially show up on the map, and then do my setup around that. I'm not a clever man, and you know what? I kind of like the surprise of the game, so I'm not spoilering it for myself any. This could be a good setup. This could be a bad setup. Who knows? We'll see. But basically, it comes down to the convoys. You roll randomly basically for each convoy that shows up. Move it. They can move around submarines if they know that there's submarines there. If they are in a range, they roll for contact to see if the escorts can spot them. And it's kind of got a unique thing. They've got there's basically 20 convoys. You start with 5 convoys, and then one convoy appears every turn till the end of the game. 10 eastbound convoys, 10 westbound convoys, and you have 10 escorts, but 4 of them are actual real escorts, or 6 of them? 4 of them are actual real escorts, 6 of them are dummies. So there's kind of a little bit of a fog of war for the Germans. You don't know which convoys are going to have escorts and not. So, I've got them separated for eastbound and westbound convoys here. And, you don't know until you actually flip them over or spot the convoy to see what the escort is. So there's a little bit of fog of war there. And then the British have got, a bunch of search planes flying out of different areas. They've got Newfoundland, what's that? Greenland. What's that up there? Iceland, and then Ulster. And they can search for they have a programmed instruction where they search for submarines and they can attack submarines. One of the cool things is that the numbers on the aircraft is actually the range of them. So let's take a look over here at Newfoundland. We've got 4 air squadrons in this scenario operating out of Newfoundland. And we've got a 7 and 3 12s. So you've got 1 aircraft that's got a range of 7, and then 3 squadrons at a range of 12. The nice thing is you've got these little lines all over the map coming from each of the airfields. And it tells you, all right, well, here's the 7 marker. So the range from the Newfoundland is 7, so you just, kind of figure it out from there. And then 10, 12, 16, 20, and that they have that for each air base. So it makes it real easy to figure out. It's like, all right, I've got a level 7, I've got a range 7 operating out of Newfoundland, and his maximum range is right here. So I know his search radius is only right there, and with the 12s and so on and so forth. So that I thought that was kind of a nice little touch that they put onto the maps to make things a little bit easier. Yeah, I think that's kind of everything I wanted to go over. Part of me wanted to try to get in first turn tonight, but it's almost midnight because I get distracted real easy with the computer and didn't get to this until later in the evening. So we're not going to be doing the first turn tonight, and I know I'm going to be heading up to my folks' tomorrow. So I don't know if I'm going to have the energy to record anything when I get home from tomorrow. But we're looking probably 2, maybe 3 days most. I do want to try to get the first turn out as quick as possible, just because it has been so long, and I know a lot of people have been asking what my status is and where you been, what you gonna do. And again, if you want to know, if you want to keep up with what I'm doing, follow me, the original Grognard, on Facebook. I don't bite. Well, I do bite, but it's neither here nor there. So I guess that's all I got for tonight. And questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms in the comment section. And I will see everybody later.